Tater.
Yes.
Okay. If you look there at the bottom right, there is a function of chat right there. If you have any questions or you want me to stop and spend a little more time on something, by all means, just send me a message or speak up. So I'll go ahead and get us started right now. I have a few things open that I'm going to close. All right. So, again, my name is Chris Robson, and I'm a tech representative with Quran East. And on this call, I've noticed, well, I guess he's not. Pete Orbovich, my counterpart in Virginia Beach, is also, well, should be participating. And Carl Athey, who's going to be new to our company, is also participating. So you have some individual representatives that are sitting in on this conference call / support forum / sales forum. And also, I believe that there's some folks from Lizard Tech. We work with Lizard Tech for data compression, where these orthomosaics are typically, a gigabyte in size. Once they're finished, it gives us an opportunity to compress them down to a 3 or 4 megabyte store. We can load them on our handheld GPS units, our cell phones, whatever we need them to go on, so it won't crush the RAM and the processing capability of our handheld. There we go. All right, Doug, that's you. Oh, that might be Carlson. There we go. All right, there was some noise in there. I was just trying to get rid of it. Our company, we developed a website called ebusa.com. And this is just a portal. On this website, there'll be a button that you can click on every week to actually join the go-to support or whatever it is, the support forum, sales forum. It should be a quick link in here somewhere. Oh, right here. Click here to register. This is kind of still in the works, but it should be ready to go by the next time this happens, which will be 2 weeks from now. So this is something that we do every 2 weeks now. It's still kind of in its early phases. We're still kind of learning what all of our customers want, where we have so many different industries and markets that we're servicing. We like to make sure that we try to have data prepared, answers prepared in advance before we sit down at the table and do this. So we're still learning. So if we don't know right away, we'll certainly get back to you and find the correct answer. So again, my name is Chris Robson. I'd like to show you a short video that we produced in-house. We're pretty proud of. It's just kind of tells you what our product does. I don't know if anybody's seen this video yet, but it's fairly new.
They say this is the information age. People want information for their projects and their businesses. They need to be able to understand things, like how much shared they would need to move for something, to visualize an instruction site. Sometimes they just need to measure a place, and that can be difficult. And that's why some smart people invent DB. It's not real big, but it's real powerful. It goes to places that are hard to get to, and it collects information and pictures, even 3D. You can talk to it, and it can talk to you. It has lots of applications it is good for, like planning roads and right-of-ways, even on farms. People who drill gas, dig rocks and mines, use it. But EV doesn't just measure stuff. It can help monitor too, like for the environment and wildlife. Even to help people when there's a disaster. There are many, many applications for EV. because it doesn't just give you information, it gives you the power to do great things. What's your application?
Yeah, I think the video is the what's your application part to us is kind of a catch-all question. It seems like the markets that we found for this system, or that has found us at this point, keeps growing and growing and growing. I noticed there's somebody on here from a timber company, and timber's not new to us, but using aerial photogrammetry and point clouds is relatively new to us. So if we seem a little off in that regard, we'll find the right answer for you. I'm going to go ahead and reduce this website. I'll go ahead and explain how our command and control software works for this particular system. It's what makes SenseFly unique to all other UAVs in the market right now is SenseFly owns every aspect of their UAS system. It's the processing software, the command and control software. They build their own autopilot. Everything that is involved in this system is turnkey produced from SenseFly in-house. And it's good stuff. Pix4D is the post-processing software, and it's arguably the best drone-based aerial photography system on the market, and it's getting better every day. I've got my task manager open for some reason. We'll use a simulator for right now. And if you look here, this is a gravel yard. A friend of mine up in the northern part of the state had a gravel yard that he needed to go and topo, and while he was topoing it, I thought it would be a neat idea just to go ahead for it took about 10 minutes to fly the whole thing. It would be just to do him a favor and just as an opportunity to mess around a little bit. So we'll use this site. I'm going to go ahead and clear all the prior pictures. There's a little button up here that allows us to clear all the photo footprints. We have several different options for aerial overviews to do our aerial photography from, and it's set on Google. I'll set it on Google Satellite. This just gives us a reference point on where to start. These different tabs across the top here are real simple. This one gives us our flight information. This one tells us where we're going to land the plane. This is the landing swath right here. This tells us our flight area. If we are going to fly individual waypoints, if we're trying to fly a right-of-way, we would use this particular page to set up a right-of-way flight. All right. And this right here is our parameters that tells us kind of the safety features that we can turn on or off. Right now, the working radius of the plane is going to be 500 meters, which this white line represents that geofence. If the plane hits this geofence, it'll return home and land. The working area ceiling, by FAA modeler's rules, we have to be under 400 feet. So this is around 130 meters. So I'll go ahead and set it to 130 meters. And the takeoff transition, the plane is going to climb in 20-meter intervals. Just pretty quick, pretty steep. So some safety features we can turn on are return home in case of strong wind. So if the wind gets too high for the plane, it is 1.2 pounds. If it's too strong, the plane will come to its home spot and land. If something happens to the GPS, if you're trying to fly the plane in a canyon, if it gets poor GPS coverage, which its primary means of navigation, it'll return home and land. If the camera battery goes dead, the plane will come home and land because there's no point in flying if you're just going to not have any pictures. But if you want to use a GoPro inside of the plane to capture video instead of still images, you can turn this feature off, and the plane will fly without coming home from a camera malfunction. If the radio link between your ground station, i.e. your field laptop, and the plane is broken for more than 30 seconds, the plane will come home and land. And if it detects the ground, it does have a ground sensor, an optical ground sensor in the bottom of the plane. It's typically used in landing. But if it senses treetops or ground, the plane will pull up and move away from the ground. And it also uses this ground sensor for landing. So if you're trying to land a plane on a bench or on a cliff where there's a lot of elevation change, we would turn this feature off. So those are some of the little safety features that we can turn on and off. I typically like to use them all. So I'm going to go ahead and set that working radius a little bigger than 500 meters because the gravel yard's bigger than that. So I'll hit the apply button, and now if we look, the geofence is bigger than the whole gravel yard. So to set our area, we have two options. We have a polygon or we have a rectangle. This is the simple rectangle mode. I'm going to go ahead and switch this to a polygon. So I can grab this guy here, I can stretch him out, I can pull this one in, I can click another node there and pull him out to the end of the yard. And this line that we created is also used for point cloud densification. So it sets the appropriate flight lines, but it also uses this polyline to constrain the orthomosaic and the point cloud area. So I'll zoom out just a little bit. So typically when we're out there, we want to know the wind direction also. So if the wind is blowing, I have to make that circle bigger. I didn't make it big enough. The flight plan was hitting the geofence. It's still hitting the geofence. If anybody sees this right here. I haven't looked to see if there's any questions. There we go, none. The geofence is hitting the flight line, so I have to make it just a hair bigger. I'll make it 730 meters. $740 meters. There we go. So whichever way the wind is blowing, and since this is coming up the river, the wind is likely blowing upriver, we like to make our flight lines perpendicular to the wind direction. So all I have to do is rotate the bigger box around, and it'll adjust the flight lines, but still maintain this flight area that we want to use. This pixel resolution is also definable. We can change it. 4 centimeters is the default, but if I want to get 3 centimeter pixel resolution, it means for every pixel in the photo is represented as a 3 centimeter space. I can set it down to 3 centimeters. And if you've watched, the target height over takeoff also changed with the pixel resolution. So the lower we fly, the lower the pixel resolution. So the picture gets better the lower you fly, but there is a point that you don't want to go below. The lateral overlap, I like to use this at 75 by 75. And that means each flight line will overlap the prior, that's photo-wise, by 75%. And going up the flight line, it'll also overlap by 75%. This just adds extra key points and allows for a little better picture processing, for ortho processing. And there is an option here as well for generating perpendicular flight lines. This is a pretty neat feature. All I have to do is click the box. So after the plane flies its first series of flight lines, it'll come back and take pictures from a 90-degree perspective. So this gives us a little better view from an opposite direction. So as the processing software moves along, it has more pixels or more photos to choose from, but also photos taken from a different direction. So this only helps in the final result. So it depends on whether you're building a Swiss watch or you're just trying to get a good picture of what's on the ground, whether you would use this function or not. And this is also a pretty nice, unique feature to our software. If you're mapping in mountainous terrain and you want the plane to maintain 3 centimeter pixel resolution. So if you start at the top of a mountain and you want it to still get 3 centimeter resolution into a valley, you click this box right here, and it'll import Google shuttle reference terrain modeling. Go ahead and I'll click this button here. Does anybody have any questions while this is going on? No? Okay. Here is the surface model that it brought in. So there's a red spot here, which means it's a high spot, and then the blue means it's pretty much on the same elevation. But if there was a lot of elevation relief, I would probably rotate this around to where my flight lines were more perpendicular. Or I'm sorry, more parallel to the ridge line, to the gradient of the surface. And it will actually change the elevations of each of these waypoints out here, these turn points in the flight line, so we can maintain this 3 centimeter resolution. So I'll go ahead and click the upload button. The flight says it's going to take 11 minutes and 59 seconds. That's a pretty real number. Once the plane is in flight, it'll take about 12 minutes to finish. So there it is. There's our uploaded flight plan. And out here at the end, this is where the plane is going to land. This right here is where he's going to approach, and this is where it's going to land. So you want to make sure that this isn't coming in over top of trees or a big deep cut or power lines. So this gives us an opportunity to edit it, but also we can change the location. We can do this while the plane is in flight. So if while the plane's flying, if we determine that the landing spot's not the best place for it, we can move it while the plane is in flight. So with that being said, I'm going to open up Google Earth. My Google Earth doesn't work so great on my computer, so I have to manually open it. Okay, so I'm going to go back here, and I'm going to click this button for Show My Flight Plan in Google Earth. That's pretty slick. So right there is the actual flight lines. If I rotate this around, it'll give me the elevation to the ground. Okay? Does everybody see that? And I can go back to my eMotion 2 software and do a simulated takeoff. And I'm going to go ahead and kick this and fast forward and go back to Google Earth. And if you look at it here in Google Earth, you'll actually see the plane in Google Earth simulated in the flight lines. And that noise is a picture being taken. It's pretty neat. I think this is probably the neatest function. This will take it a second. What's neat is the approach and the landing. Anybody have any questions up to this point? I see I have 2 Pete Orboviches in the audience. It's got a little bit to finish here.
Didn't know there were two of us, did you?
All right, so as the plane makes its last flight line here, he goes back to that home spot where he climbed an elevation. So he's done taking pictures. He's going to go back to the home spot, and he's going to lose some elevation. I don't know if we can see this. He's kind of spiraling down a little bit. And this is exactly what it does in the field. He proceeds out to his
50, 40, 30, 20, 10.
He proceeded out there to the end of that triangle and shows which end to start from. It's based off of wind direction, and then it comes in and lands. You can actually edit the width of this landing path, that I'm rotating around here, and make it smaller, wider, but it makes it more difficult for the plane to land. If we're going to do a corridor map, if we're in the business of doing railroads, go ahead and get rid of that. I'll just use this section of railroad for corridor mapping. I can go right here and get rid of these waypoints from the prior flight. So I need to move this. Here we go. I can add a waypoint. I'll put it right here. I can add another waypoint, and I can put it right there. Obviously, I'd want to do them a little further away. And I'll keep moving down the railroad track. This is a bit more of a manual process than doing a given orthomosaic area. So I can keep going and put a parallel set of waypoints beside those, because we do need stereo pairs to do aerial photogrammetry. And I'll keep trucking along, and I'm almost done. Google Earth KML is really nice if you're doing pipelines or railroads. You can bring in the line work from Google Earth and overlay it in here and actually follow that for your flight line. So we just go ahead and tell it to during transit to start taking pictures. And we'll start it on that waypoint and stop it on that waypoint. So again, to do this, all we have to do is click our takeoff button, and there he goes. And he'll just follow those specific waypoints that we placed in there, and then we'll have stereo pairs along the way. So, does this make sense to everybody? I don't know if anybody's going to be in the business of doing Oh, and there's some safety features up here at the top again. If we need to tell the plane to sit in a particular spot, we can tell it to hold its position, and he'll just spin around in circles and hold that position. And then when we're ready for him to start flying again, we can hit resume mission. So he's done with his flight. He's returning home, and now he's going to land again.
Fifty, 40, 30, 20, 10.
Mr. Adams, just to address your question there, the maximum pixel resolution, that's actually, I guess it'd be the minimum pixel resolution. I haven't flown it. I believe we've flown it down to 2.5 centimeters, and that was on a flat field. And I'm trying to remember, somewhere around 90 meters, 270 feet that the plane was flying at to get that. Now, you may be able to fly a little lower, but we wouldn't recommend it. The lower you fly, the harder it is for the plane to keep up taking pictures. So 2.5 centimeter pixel resolution, super duper good photography. So,
Chris?
Uh-huh.
I was actually trying to get the maximum. Does it go up to about a 30? Is that what I remember seeing in the paperwork?
Again, it's going to fly higher to get that, and with the
right.
Again, FAA.
I just wondered what the standard elevation at that maybe the 30 centimeter resolution would be.
I have no idea. I mean, that's if you plug in 30 centimeters, it's going to fly way high, and I'll push.
And I just wondered if that put it outside the FAA.
Well, it would, but I can tell you this. So it's going to fly at 975 meters, 3,000 feet. So, but keep this in mind when we process.
Right.
We can collect it 4 centimeter pixel resolution. Our raw data can be at 4 centimeters, and then when we post process, we can tell the software to go to 30 centimeters instead of 4 centimeters. It'll also speed up the processing part of it as well. But I notice also
my question.
Okay. Well, I notice
there's more than one way to get at it.
Right. Yeah. So you can never go forwards. You can only go backwards. So if you collect at 4 centimeters, we can process it at 30 centimeters, but we can't really collect at 30 centimeters. You know, it just
right. If we're just trying to do a big area and trying to keep the ultimate file size down, that's what I was trying to get to, and see if we could maintain within the elevation restrictions that were out there. So that makes sense.
Okay.
Thank you.
There are some other things that we have to offer you also for file size and file structure. So whenever you do get your orthomosaics done into point clouds, notice you're also you're a timber company, a forestry company. The point cloud engine, there's some new processing algorithms that are coming out that are specifically designed for vegetation that allow us to actually capture it looks like the tree in 3D, and I'll show you that data here shortly. Right. Does anybody have any questions?
So that would be similar to like a LiDAR image?
It'll look very similar to it. Again, I have it. We did some data. An airport group, the South Carolina Aviation Group, I guess, where their airports are relatively flat. They need to make sure that they have minimum clearance for trees at the end of runways, and getting that actual tree density and tree shape was particularly important to them. And again, this latest processing kernel that Pix4D is coming out with does a really good job in picking up trees. So I'll show you that data here shortly. So does anybody have any questions about this command and control software? And I'll tell you. And there's other something else in here. This flight plan, if we wanted to save it and reuse it over and over, all we have to do is click the Save Flight Plan button, and we can just call it demo or whatever we want to call it. Well, I've got one in there already. I'll go ahead and overwrite it. So if I want to come back and fly the same area again and not have to go and recreate the flight plan, I can just load one up and whatever I want. Of course, this one's clear up in Morgantown, West Virginia. No version parameter is found, no distance between photos. Well, that's excellent. But it allows us to save and recover any any flight lines so we can reuse them over. And if we did the flight planning in the office because we may not have internet in the field, we can also save this and load it once we get out there, and it'll buffer this Google Earth image so we can actually see where the plane is in reference to a satellite image. So, and something else to mention, when we are doing forestry, there's a camera tab here, and the plane is set up and designed to pitch at 7 degrees. So when it takes a picture, or when it reaches its waypoint to take a picture, it shuts off the motor, pitches to 7 degrees, and snaps a picture. If we're flying forestry where we're trying to get from the tops of the trees to the ground, we change this number to 0. So it's looking straight down into the canopy. So that's something else that's a pretty neat. These are things that we've learned over time and are helpful to tell people as we move forward. So if we don't have any questions about the command and control software, this is really easy stuff to use. Again, all the information on the plane is displayed in real time while it's in flight. The pitch, roll, and angle, and the elevation over ground is displayed here. The GPS coordinates of the plane are displayed, and the wind direction. So if we're catching a lot of wind, it shows us the direction of the wind and the speed. The next version of eMotion 2 is going to be switched over to imperial units instead of metric. So if anybody doesn't understand 1.6 meters a second, I know that 10 meters a second is bad. I don't know what 1.6 meters per second equated into miles per hour would be. So this is being switched over to imperial units here in the next release, which I think is actually available now. And something else to mention with all SenseFly products, if you buy the EB unit that comes as a turnkey system with eMotion 2, command and control software, and Pix4D's post-flight Terra 3D software that updates for the plane firmware, for eMotion 2's software, or for Pix4D software, are free for the life of the unit. There's no maintenance costs, I guess is a better way to describe it. We can import a KML if we've drawn one up in Google Earth. We, in the future, will be able to import surface imagery. So if we're working on a strip mine and the existing ground has changed a lot, and that SRTM modeling is not up to date, we can actually use a prior flight as our surface model for maintaining proper pixel resolution across changing elevations. So I'll go ahead and exit out of there. Again, there was our Google Earth stuff. It's live connected to eMotion 2, so we don't see our flight lines anymore there. But it does give us a pretty nice picture in 3D, especially if we have changing grades, how the plane is going to react to them. All right, come on, baby. All right, I'll go ahead and discard that stuff. So I've got lots of data. I don't know what particularly works for some people, but I was just talking to a forestry person, so I'm going to open up that data. My point cloud module's expired. This is Barbersville Community Park. This is right by my house. It's a RC field. We use it often for training and for demonstrations because it is an RC field. It's unpopulated, and it's fairly friendly for takeoffs and landings. But I processed this area using Pix4D's new processing software that allows us to process vegetation a lot differently. This is also coming from an external hard drive, so if it seems a little slow, that's why. So if we see the holes here, these often represent areas where there was water. It kind of looks like we're looking at a picture, doesn't it? But we're looking at a colorized point cloud. So I'll zoom in on an area. And if we look here, you can kind of make out some trees and some vegetation. I'll just try to zoom in a little closer. What happened to all my buttons? There we go. I'll go ahead and kick it in 3D. Those are trees and shrubs and see how we're actually capturing the trees now? How it looks very similar to a LiDAR picture that you would normally look at, how you can see the texture of the trees. We can see from the tree to the ground. So if we're in the business of doing engineering and we're trying to find original ground, you can see where that tree is and you can see where the ground is pretty easily. That area I didn't get the beaver dam in there. There's an old beaver dam right there and there's trees growing all around it. And you can get a pretty good picture of ground to the tops of the trees. These are all a bunch of shrubby, brushy overgrowth here up on this bank. And that's a pretty good representation as to what it looks like. I'll close that guy. Another area I thought was pretty neat on here. This is a Global Mapper that I'm using, by the way. I don't know if anybody else uses Global Mapper, but it's a pretty inexpensive piece of software that allows us to open multiple data sets at one time. Like I can go ahead and open up the ortho mosaic of it as well. So there's the actual 3D orthomosaic of the park. And just to kind of reiterate how we're, this new processing kernel that we have is kind of doing a pretty good job of extracting ground from trees. Again, here's the soccer field. Down below is, again, we weren't intentionally going out to capture this tree cover. This was just something that we were, we were flying it for the soccer fields. But right here is the river trail at Barbersville Park. You can see the elevation change from the top of the bank down to the river trail, but you can also see the elevation change from the tree cover to the river trail as well. This is the trail that runs right through here. Now, this is a bridge out here. Something else that's pretty neat. If I click on the wrong thing, I'm using a finger pad instead of a mouse. I'll zoom out a little bit here and I'll capture a different spot of the soccer field. And something else I thought was pretty neat that is never done before. Here's some soccer goals. So I'll try to zoom in on that soccer goal there a little bit. And I've not seen this really in any other, photo. This is kind of new to the software, is it actually grabbed the tops of the soccer goals. Does anybody see that? Anybody see how it picked up the tops of those soccer goals? I thought that was pretty neat. So normally in our prior revision of software, it did not pick up those soccer goals. You can see the tree cover out in the distance. These little posts that you see out here bent over have nets attached to them to keep the kids from kicking the soccer balls into the river. and all that stuff has been modeled into this. So again, some really good stuff is coming on the horizon. It's from what I understand due out this month. This was processed with the beta version of that software, but it does have some new algorithms for processing that involve using some vegetation processing and some oblique imagery options as well. You can see it picked up some of the net on this one and some of the supports for the soccer goal. So I was impressed by that. It doesn't sound like anybody else was, so I'll just keep trucking along. So any questions, anything, any particular applications? Because I'm going to move on to a Cori application next so I can kind of show the 3D aspect of this, because my background is mining and construction type stuff. So, of course, anything 3D really sings to me a great deal. We have some really cool stuff as far as NDVI imagery on the horizon. And we also offer a way of processing this, again, these huge data sets down into a palatable, usable size for our computers. I'll try to go here real quick and mark with the core. Oh, look how big that picture was. That orthomosaic was 460 megabytes, which is going to be pretty hard for a lot of stuff to handle. I compressed it down to 4.4 megs, which I could load on my handheld GPS unit at that point. So I'll show you guys how that works here in just a few. So that's the park. That's Barboursville Park. Pretty nice little flight area. I got some snow on it. Oh, the bridge. I did to get too carried away. This is the Corps of Engineers out here with me that day. Good group of people. Not to get too carried away here. But I am a tech nerd. So to look at how things are processed in 3D with a photo, you see the bridge pretty well, looks pretty good, but we also see underneath it. Anybody gathering that? You can see the brush is pretty clearly defined and the rail is pretty clearly defined. You can see the grade break. You can actually see some of the abutments here. But I thought that was pretty neat. This again was all done with the newest. It's in beta, but it is coming out here in the very near future. This processing software is that'll produce this result. The one before would process it, but it would maybe cut bits and pieces of the bridge out, and the vegetation would be a bit more truncated. It would look more like a surface than it would actual trees and bushes and vegetation. So I'll move on to our Cori application. This is my favorite one. The day that we did this, the winds were probably blowing 20, 25 miles an hour. So this is the actual surface file that was generated. Just a big file. It'll take it a second. Okay, it's loaded up. I snuck away and got some coffee. There's the surface. You can see some stockpiles. You can see some high walls. This is just a surface file. And I'll go ahead and open up the orthomosaic over top of it. So there we are. There's our big sump ponds. We'll kind of move in on these stockpiles here a little bit. So I'll go ahead and kick this guy in 3D so we can grasp what it does. So you see some pretty nice 3D images here. There's the safety bench for the sump pond. You can pick up all the variations like I was referring to earlier. The vegetation kind of gets truncated. It just kind of gets turned into a surface. And water, where it's constantly moving, we can't get any key points. The key points are inconsistent, so you end up with getting some waves in the water that may not actually be there, and that's just basically because the water changes from second to second. We get a pretty good idea of what the finished stockpiles look like, though. It's pretty good. So a traditional sense of getting stockpile volumes would involve a surveyor walking around the bottom of this pile and then trying to pick up every break line that defines the shape of the stockpile. And now flying at 300 feet and really pick up a pretty good picture of what this looks like from a safe perspective. It's not what I wanted to do. There we go. If we want to calculate volumes on the stockpile, all I got to do, there's a little volume tool in here, a little measurement tool. All I got to do is draw a line around it. I can do better than this, but normally I would try to tuck it right up against the pile and calculate the volume of that stockpile. I want to do it within that line, and I want my pile to be reported in cubic yards. And just like this, we can get our cubic yardage of the pile pretty quick. So 17 cubic yards of gravel. I'm sorry, that is the fill area. That would be the area that sits below that polyline that I drew. So 3,507 cubic yards. So any questions so far? I haven't looked at my little ticker here. How many points per square meter? I don't know. That is definable. We can produce two different data sets. One of them where the point clouds are spaced on 100-centimeter spaces, and I'll give a quick explanation or a quick demonstration of that. Oops, wrong folder. Point cloud. We have two different point clouds. We have a 100-centimeter point cloud, and then we have a point cloud that's representative typically of every pixel that's in the photo. So I'll open up the 100-centimeter one first just to give you an idea. So this is the point cloud at 100 centimeters. It looks pretty grainy. You can see that everything's spaced out really broad. But sometimes when you have spacing that's pretty broad, it'll smooth the surface pretty good. I'll unload that one, and I'll open up the one that's pretty tight. And the best accuracy that I've achieved, I don't know if what we're referring to as accuracy as far as point cloud density or using ground control, going back and actually the ground control checks versus survey control. We've got them down to 2 3/100ths of a foot, but that's just to the ground control. And if the job is flown in good light, if it's flown from perpendicular flight lines, I've had a couple of outfits tell me on some construction jobs that 1,500ths is the typical vertical precision that they're seeing. So does that answer your question, Ed? About 1/1500ths of a foot with ground control. And again, on survey control, whenever I hover over the survey control, I'm seeing it down to 2 3/100ths of a foot. And again, the more photos we register to each ground control point, the better the final results. I think I might have turned you on. No? All right, so here's the really finite version, and you can see it's not nearly as grainy. The data set isn't. It looks a lot more complete. It looks more like the photo. This again is a point cloud. This is not a photo. This is point cloud data, and I'll go ahead and kick this guy into 3D just to illustrate it. It's not a photo. A photo would be flat. There's the high wall data. There's the road going up. You can see the safety bench pretty clearly. And what I thought was interesting in flying this, I didn't even recognize it, is they had dug a big trough up here. And that big trough shows up in the profile of this really well. Now we're starting to see some of the grain effect where my graphics card is taking a shortcut, but also where the point cloud density starts to space out a little bit. So you see it's pretty tight. I'll keep moving along. Is any particular data that folks want to see? I mean, I kind of just trying to address what works for everybody. What is something that folks are working on, what I can show, or maybe a project that I've already worked on, or something that might be on the horizon for somebody else to work on. What can I show you? I don't know if I've got my speakers on. I know I don't.
I have a question that's not related to this global mapper software. Every time I start up the eMotion 2 software and try to connect to a drone,
Yep.
It comes up, I have to hit cancel and then reconnect again. Like the first time it's not actually functioning correctly.
Right.
When I hit on simulator, it just hangs. I have to hit cancel and hit connect again. Is that something that happens to everybody, or am I doing something wrong?
First of all, I think it happened to Pete, my colleague. Pete, are you on here? Geez, he's probably taking a nap. It's not ever happened to me. It's happened to, I believe, Pete that I work with from Virginia Beach, and he simply updated his version of eMotion 2. I don't know what version you're running. If you go to About eMotion 2, I'm running 2.1.
I believe that's the same version I have, but okay.
All right, and if you go here also, to the SenseFly download section, if you see the path up here, there is an update to this that was released.
September 13th, 2013.
Nope, right here. See this? Here's the update bundle for eMotion 2 and for the autopilot on your plane, December 8th, 2013. So there is an update available.
Okay. Yeah, that's the version I'm running.
Okay, I know it's probably the very same version, but there's a patch in there that fixes some things, and that patch may be directly related to what you're doing. I would suggest download it.
Check that.
Yeah, if it doesn't work for you, let me know. So you go to connect to it, and then you have to exit out or have to do something different, and it connects the second time.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Are you running Windows 8 or Windows 7?
Windows 8.
Okay. I'll try it on a Windows 8 computer here in a little bit and see if I run into the same issue. There is some different ways of doing things in here. I wanted to explain. You're a user already?
Yes, I'm a user here in Hawaii. That's
Okay.
why I joined the call late this morning.
And inside of here, have you done the Flightline replay yet?
The Flightline replay?
Yep.
And I've gone through and done like Flightline tests before before going out, but I haven't tried to replay one, no.
Okay. I'll just give you a quick illustration. This is, again, a pretty neat feature of eMotion 2. If I go right here and I say a log player, I go under the Start button, eMotion 2 and Log Player, I can load up one of my flight logs that it records on every flight, unless I deleted them all, which would be, oh, it's under my documents. My
Are you
document.
looking for the KML files under resources?
No. Yeah, that's a pretty neat feature too. Thanks for mentioning that. Logs. Here's the actual log files of the flights. Here's the most recent one I did. Oh, no, it's not. That's where I was doing some testing. Here we go. Okay. So in eMotion 2 at this point, all I got to do is go to the Advanced button and then say Manual Connection and OK. And right there is the flight. See that? And if I click on this button here again and go to that log player, I can tell it to play. See that? This actually replays a prior flight. Why would you use this?
Oh, to show a customer what was done.
Well, what was done, or in case your battery went dead and it landed in another field. We've had some people that flew in high winds on a mine site, and we had to recover his plane because the battery went dead about, 500 feet shy of his landing spot. And this told us precisely where to look for it. A pretty nice feature of the software. But this is, again, just something else to show you why I've got you on here since you're an existing user.
Yeah, Chris.
Yo, Pete.
Yeah, well, I was listening. I just had the headset on, and I just dialed in. Yeah, I experienced that too. So.
Did you have that problem, Pete?
Yeah.
How did you resolve it?
By doing the update.
Oh, okay. There you go. So there's just a quick demonstration of how to use the flight log player. I wanted to show it to you why I had you on here since you were talking about eMotion 2. But again, this all the software updates are right here on SenseFly's website. So what other applications can I cover for anybody? Is there something specific that I haven't touched on? I showed a quarry. I showed some tree canopy type stuff, extracting ground from trees. Anything else that's useful that would be nice knowledge to have?
Do you have any images with the IR function in the camera?
Yeah.
Of some vegetation or?
Yeah, bear with me here. I'll pull it up for you.
Okay.
So
that one just came.
Yep. You're again. I'm going to be honest with you. That agricultural stuff, I understand the application really well, and there is something coming out here. It's going to be very exclusive to SenseFly. That Parrot, that the parent company for SenseFly, is a gadget company. They're really good at teaming up with other people, making gadgets for research teams, creating and making up and thinking of new ways of doing things. That's kind of their claim to fame over there in Europe. And they've worked with an agricultural institute, the supposedly the very best one in Europe, to come up with a new camera. So our cameras are current multispectral cameras that are small enough to put in drones. Even Tetracam, it doesn't matter what brand it is, aren't true multispectral cameras. They don't record RGB and near infrared all in the same flight. So here in the future, we're going to have a camera, a small camera with the most sensitive filter for near infrared imagery, coupled with RGB, all in one camera, true multispectral imagery being captured in one single flight, which is not been done at this point with a drone or a small camera. So I'll go ahead and open up some NIR data. I got to find it. I think it's on my hard drive, external hard drive, that is. not that one. Captured this down at Virginia Tech. I don't know if anybody keeps up with the FAA's testing locations, but this was done at the testing location. Whoops. Don't lock up. So this is an NIR flight, and it was done hastily with a lot of people watching. You can see how many cars are in this parking lot here. Had a pretty decent audience, and what's interesting about NIR data is pretty much anything that has chlorophyll in it shows up as red. Anything that's whatever doesn't have any red in it. So it's real easy to distinguish the difference between plant life and things that aren't living and have chlorophyll in them. So we have some functions. This is Global Mapper, and it's not the best to do it with, but it does have a raster calculator that we can go in and create NDVI from. But unfortunately, creating the NDVI, we'll be here clear through lunch and maybe then some waiting for it to finish. But I can understand in a forestry application, again, that you can separate the health of trees and in a forest, what's the healthy tree, what's the unhealthy tree based off of the amount of green that's in the tree. Same thing can be accomplished on golf courses, cornfields, wheat fields, soybean fields, whatever we've got that we're trying to calculate some sort of crop yield or fertilizer prescription or whatever. It can all be done right from an NDVI image, which is captured with a near infrared camera. So this imagery right here, it was actually captured with an NIR camera. To get true NDVI, we could calculate an NDVI image from this, but to calculate true NDVI, would actually need a separate RGB flight on it. And again, we've got something coming here in the very near future that's going to have all this stuff coupled in one camera, which is pretty nice. So does that answer your question right now, sir?
Yes, thank you.
This is a $1,500 option. That camera here in the near future is going to be, I don't know. They haven't even told us yet. Actually, I think they've told us not to tell anybody something's coming. So you didn't hear it from Chris. So I'll keep trucking along here.
Question, if I could.
Okay, go ahead.
When the images that the craft is producing, when I go through all the processing, I end up with one, like this geo image and one called an alpha image. What really is the difference between the standard, and the alpha?
The standard and the alpha, if you look, one of them's got that big black border on it. I'll try to get a photo here for you. I don't have two of them in here. Yep, see how this big black border is here?
Mm-hmm.
That is, one's the alpha and one's the one with the black border. If you look there, you've got two file sizes. One of them's way bigger than the other. The one that has the black, they're basically the same photo, but the one with the black border is the that's what it is. The whichever, I need to look, I need to find it so I can tell you precisely. Dark with the core. Nope, not there. Yeah, we have an alpha and a geo. If I look at the size of the geo, it's 332 meg, and if I look at the size of the alpha, it's 386 meg. Same photo, one of them has a black border around it.
Fill it in.
Yeah.
Fill in the photo with.
Yeah, you see how it's got this black area in here? It fills the area where there is no photo with black area. So this was a right-of-way that we did, a pipeline right-of-way. And we followed a Google Earth KML. So everywhere the plane made a turn, yeah, it just put in black area and made the photo truly square instead of making it this funky shape. So if you load it into something and you're trying to seam photos up, you get this nice square cutoff versus that choppy, wherever the orthomosaic area happened to follow kind of perspective. So this was the alpha, and I'll open up the other one. Well, oddly enough, it looks exactly the same. That's not what I was trying to illustrate. I'm not John Irving, by the way. This is his go-to account, even though I'm the one that does them. So in case anybody thought my name was John, maybe I can find a better one for you. But I do know the alpha is the one that adds that black filled area. So I'm going to move on to some other neat stuff that we now carry. Is what we run into is we got this nice photo, and if we want to use it with our GIS or use it with a field data collection, or if we want to share this data with anybody else in the world, if I try to email them a 343 megabyte file, they're going to be real unhappy with me. So I'll go ahead and unload all this stuff. So what we drop back on is Mr. SIDS at this point, and I'll go ahead and open that up. Oh, GeoExpress is the software suite. So if I go through here and I find a picture that I want to go ahead and use, I think I was just looking at
That one of the Air Force bases good.
the one of the Air Force bases. Good, Pete. They all turn out like really, really good. It's amazing. I don't have that one on this computer, Pete. So it says this is 42 megs. That's not quite big enough. So that picture we were just looking at of a couple houses, that was 42 megabytes. I'll find that Corey. Here it is. Lafarge. So right there is this picture. Right now it is 343 megabytes. Okay? And with that black area in there, the actual input size ends up bumping up to 1.2 gig. So, but really, the input size is 343 megabytes. I want this picture to end up being 3 megabytes. Okay? I can load this on any handheld at that point. I can load it on my cell phone and carry it around using a free viewer called GeoViewer. It allows you to open up Mr. SIDS imagery right on your phone and use the GPS in your phone to navigate with. I'll go ahead and execute this. So a minute and a half from now. I don't know if anybody from Lizard Tech is in on this. I don't see any of the names. Nope. Pete, did you have any data you wanted to share?
No, I didn't. I just rushed in here. I don't have anything on this computer I'm looking at right here, so.
There you go.
But I will next time. I have a few of those files loaded up and be connected on my other computer. So.
This takes it a few seconds, but this is certainly worth the final result. Is anybody here into Corvettes?
That's one word.
I have.
Yeah, I like them.
I have a map of the new racetrack, an aerial map of the new racetrack that's being built at the Corvette Museum down in Bowling Green. It's actually compressed using Mr. Sid's. It was a 3 square mile map that was compressed down to 4 megabytes. They're using it on their dozers, loaded up as a background file in their machine control systems. Is it done?
Yeah, it's done.
Okay. Whoops. So if I go here to my GeoViewer, which is a free piece of software, you can download this on any Droid phone, on any, this is a free download for any laptop. I'll go here to that Lafarge folder. And right there's the Mr. Sid's. It's compressed down to 3 megs now. And if we look at the quality of the photo, it was pretty good before. Where we're flying at such low altitude, even compressing that photo down to 3 megs, it's virtually lossless. I mean, we're not losing any resolution in the photo by dropping it down that far. It's a pretty valuable tool when you're in the business of producing aerial imagery. This will actually work with LiDAR data sets as well. Close projects, don't save it. So if I wanted to open that point cloud that we did, was that it? Yep. We can actually view the LiDAR data set as well. So there it is. It gives us another option for viewing LiDAR. And it's free. So again, this is a new bell and whistle to what we're doing. It just gives us another option of taking these massive data sets and compressing it down to a very functional size. So again, forestry application, if you've flown it and you're going out doing your timber cruise off of this data, you could actually take this Mr. Sid loaded onto your mapping grade GPS system or onto your iPhone and actually use this data in the field as a functional data set rather than a huge aerial that represents a very colorful, highly accurate photo. Now we can compress it down and actually use it on multiple platforms. So something we offer now. Of course, I highly recommend it, but it's certainly not necessary. So any questions?
The GeoExpress, the full version, what's 9,000?
No, for GeoExpress, for an unlimited data cartridge, and the way LizardTech sets up their software, if you look here at the top of my screen, I have a 100 gigabyte data cartridge. And with the $8,500 full-blown version, that is an unlimited amount of data that you can compress in a year. They offer the software as different echelons. There's the smaller the data cartridge, the lower the cost. So I believe you can get a 500 gig data set for around $3,500 if I'm correct. So 500 gigs would essentially be 500 aerial images you could compress in a year's time instead of paying for the full-blown version. So if you're a heavy user of aerial imagery, the unlimited version works best if you're trying to compress it down and use it in-house for a lot of different jobs to disperse to a lot of different people. A smaller data cartridge would suit that customer a little better. So again, another neat piece of software that we carry. I can email this to myself and load it up on my phone and carry it around. I have the Corvette track on my phone. And this data is also usable by like Global Mapper. I can open up that data set in here. I can open it pretty much in anything. I go to my documents and then proceed to Lafarge. Mosaic. Right there's that Mr. Sid. So instead of loading up that big giant photo, now I'm loading up this small one, and it makes things flow a lot quicker. Instead of having 343 megabytes in my RAM cache. So any questions, anything I can address, folks? All right, I don't know what else I have to add. I believe we had Carlson Software on the line. I don't know if Jim? Hello, Jim. Jim Carlson's on, and I was just going to ask him if he had anything to add. We like to invite software vendors on here as well, that there may be a tool that they have that can lend benefit to our customers. So Carlson Point Cloud, they produce engineering software, surveying software for that community, where he could actually import this point cloud into his software with the aerial image and actually separate the ground from the trees and generate volumes and line work, that type of thing in the CAD environment. This would be. Jim, I turned your microphone off a while ago because we're getting a lot of feedback through it. I turned it back on. Okay, apparently Jim's not. Apparently his microphone's not working or something. But does anybody else have anything to ask, or did I hear Jim for a second? Okay. I don't know if anybody else has any questions to ask, anything to add, or applications that we may be able to assist with or point you in the right direction on, or in Mr. Wood's case, any support that we can offer you? Jim, I can't hear you talking. I heard you for a second, but I can't hear you now.
I don't think anybody else could hear him.
Okay. Well, if nobody else has any other questions, if there's something left unanswered, by all means, if you've received an invitation from me, you have my email address. Please feel free to call me. And
yeah, can you hear me now?
I can hear you now, Jim. Did you have anything you wanted to add? Did you have any data you wanted to show? Anything like that?
I could very briefly just show show a query that you sent to me quite a while ago, and just kind of show it in Carlson Point Cloud.
Okay, I'm going to make you the presenter then. Okay, you ready?
I am.
All right, ladies and gentlemen. Well, no ladies. I'm sorry, gentlemen. This is Jim Carlson of Carlson Software. I'm going to let him show you just a little bit about what they do.
Okay.
So right there, this is the is this the 3M? This is the 3M quarry in Pittsboro, North Carolina.
Yeah, I guess so. You sent me this data, and it's a very good example of how quick you can get this imagery into Carlson with AutoCAD or IntelliCAD and work up doing volumes and things of that nature. So I'll just show you what I did right here. I have a perimeter that I've created around this orthophoto, and I'm just going to go up to our settings here and go down to Point Cloud's menu. And this brings up our Point Cloud module. Carlson Software has several modules of software: survey, civil, hydro, GIS, and Point Clouds. And right now, if I go to Point Cloud Setup, there's only two menus on the Point Clouds dropdown. If I go to Point Cloud Setup, we have a Carlson Point Cloud that can handle about 20 to 30 megabytes of points, not too much. And we have this one that we're experimenting with. can handle a little bit more. But the one that we're using right now was purchased by Bentley called Point Tools the fourth quarter of 2011, and it can handle up to 2 gigabyte of points or more depending on the memory that you have on your computer. So I'm going to be using the Point Tools Point Cloud engine. Go up to Point Cloud Manager, and this loads Point Tools inside of IntelliCAD or AutoCAD, whichever CAD platform you're using with Carlson. I go to Open, I can see that I have this Point Cloud Point Tools PC file, project file. I'll grab it, and you can see that we have several options right here. And I could have imported this file and shown you that process, but I'll just go up here and show you. This is the file that was sent to me by Chris quite a while ago. I go to Properties. You can see that we have 23 million points, quite a few points there. And if I pick the right key down here and just want to view it inside of Point Tools, I can create a second view. I've already created one view, but I'll create a second view. And we have different options, and I'm just going to use the existing RGB colors that came from the EV drone. And you can see that if I come up here, I can zoom around just like Chris did with the SenseFly software, and I can see that there's a you can see right here that the building, the top of the building was picked up here, and somehow they flattened this conveyor right here, so it didn't affect anything. So that was done in SenseFly software. But I'm going to quickly just draw a polyline around this area here just to show you how you can draw inside of the point cloud. So I come up here and go to Action, and we're going to go to Polyline, and I'm going to make a new one here, Polyline 5, and I'll just hit the Control key here. And essentially, you're surveying just like you do out in the field. I'm collecting XYZ or connecting dots. Get to there, and I can just close that. And that creates number 5, end mode there. Go back to project, and you can see there's polyline 5. And I'll just draw just this polyline. So I pick draw, and we'll go ahead and save this, close. And you can see that I have a polyline that I just drew, that one right there. And I'm just going to come up here, erase those two. And right now, if I just want to exit out, go back into a CAD package, and we'll just pick Carlson Civil. And if I pick Quick Profile, I'll do it from 3D Polyline. You can see that as I move along that 3D polyline, you can see that that's what I picked. As I get up right there, you can see that you actually now have the controls of the CAD package with the point cloud, and you can see what you picked along there. So there's my 3D polyline that I just drew right there. And if I just go up to Surface, do Triangulate and Contour, and we're going to write a TIN file called Base 1. Pick that guy right there, and I just created a TIN file just of the base. And just like you saw in Global Mapper, if I want to come up here and do volumes from triangulation files, I can do 2 triangulation surface files. And this is the base, and here's the TIN. And I think this job that Chris sent to me was in metric. So inclusion perimeter, I'll just come down here and pick that inclusion perimeter, no exclusion perimeter, and pick OK. And there is the volume in square meters. If the job was done in feet, I could have done square yards. So there's the volume of that stockpile. And I can go back into Point Cloud, pull profiles. Actually, I could turn this 3D polyline into a profile. So I just wanted to very briefly show everybody how you can get these point clouds, and the imagery is great. I got this imagery directly came from Chris, and it's huge right now. But what's interesting is that we also read Mr. Sid files, and that LizardTech product that he showed you can actually compress those imageries from in maybe 2 gigabytes. I think this might be several hundred megabytes in size, and if we can reduce those down to 4 or 5 megabytes and have the same resolution, that's just critical inside of CAD. Though I will tell you that this is moving relatively quickly, this image right here, for as big as it is. But I just wanted to kind of give everybody a brief demonstration of how to use the imagery from the EB drone, and also how to use the point cloud that comes from the EB drone and Sensibilize software, and take that information and virtual survey it in Carlson Point Cloud and bring it over into the drawing. And our Carlson Point Cloud, with the Point Tools engine that handles up to 2 gigabyte or more, depending on the memory on your computer, points in the Point Cloud, is $5,000, and Karen East is a dealer for Carlson Software. So that's pretty much it I have for this presentation.
All right, Jim, thank you. Does anybody have any questions about Carlson Software or anything like that we can answer for you? No? Okay. Well, I guess this will conclude our Friday session of go-to meetings that we do here at Quran East. In 2 weeks, we'll have another one of these. You know, I tell you, if you missed this one, which obviously you didn't, but if there's more questions that you have or anything that comes up in the future, again, we're trying to bring more software vendors into this, hopefully getting somebody from SenseFly involved in this as well, being that they're in Europe. I believe that they are tucking themselves into bed about now, if I'm correct, or at least eating dinner. We're trying to get them involved as well. So if you're a user, you'll get more information. You'll have more support available to you on a user end. If you're a prospective buyer, there's going to be more applications that come up on this on a biweekly basis. You'll be able to see more things that have been done. So if you're in the buying process or in trying to consider if this is a viable product for your company, we'll have a lot more information to provide you in the near future. So if you have any questions, you have my email address because you received a go-to invitation from me. Feel free to address them, and we'll do our best to get questions answered as quick as we possibly can. But for those of you sitting in, I certainly appreciate your time. My name is Chris Robson. I'm a tech representative from Quran East. You guys have a great weekend.
Thanks, Chris.
Thank you, Chris.